Bonjour, mes amis. I don't believe I've done a video in the month of September, so I thought I better get out here and get one done. It's a gorgeous fall day, really quite perfect. Sweatshirt on this morning, but in a couple hours I'll be switching to the shorter clothes. And I've taken up oil painting since last we spoke, so that's what's taken up my time these days. Not quite spending as much money on paint supplies as on pens, but I'm approaching that. Anyway, I wanted to talk today about this pen from, you guessed it, Leonardo Officina Italiana that I just got. It's a Momento Zero Grande model, and it's in Arco, marrone / oro. Now, every time we hear that word Arco, most of us think of this stuff. So I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about celluloid. Now, this is a chemistry thing, and I'm not a chemist, and I am mostly confused about all of this, but I'm going to try and sort out what I know about the word celluloid and what it means and why it has such cachet among pen collectors. So what we call celluloid, some people might say true celluloid, is actually oh wow, there is a really cool bug hanging off of my hummingbird feeder. I think it's a walking stick. Anyway, sorry, distracted there. So what people usually mean when they say celluloid, they mean cellulose nitrate. And if you get a pen that's actually cellulose nitrate, it smells a little bit of camphor because the cellulose is treated with camphor for some reason. And that stuff is notoriously flammable and problematic, and that is not made anymore, at least not for pens. Now, in the early days of film, I'm actually a film scholar by training. A lot of training, not a lot of scholaring. Early films were made of celluloid nitrate, and that's why many of them burned up in the projector. And projectors had a arc in at that time. They had a light came from two filaments, which kind of electrical spark or even flame sort of went across them to make light, and old arc lamp projectors. And so the flammable material and what they used to get the light through the projector, not a good combo. So many films from the early days of cinema are lost to us forever, or have been reconstructed from paper copies and other kinds of things. And we film scholars get very excited when when people find in their attics canisters of old film that has never actually run through a projector. And that still happens. Just maybe about 10 years ago, a bunch of Méliès films were found literally in somebody's attic, and I've greatly expanded what is extant from one of the early, very important filmmakers. Okay, that's a bit of an aside, but I want to show off that I know some other things besides how much pens cost. So anyway, so that true celluloid, I guess, is that cellulose nitrate, and you can tell it sometimes because it'll smell of camphor. Now, this is a pen made from what's generally thought of as Tebaldi Impero celluloid, but it's actually a Bexley pen. And when I first got this pen, the smell of camphor was really strong. And now I can get just the tiniest whiff of it. But, my nose is looking for the camphor, and it's still hard to detect. This pen, not as turned much more recently, clearly celluloid. It's the fabulous Arco bronze that we all love, and I really can't smell the camphor at all in this. But there are still new celluloids coming out, and they're actually celluloid acetate. Different thing. Again, that's chemistry. Don't really understand. But apparently it is enjoyable to work with. It does so people rave about these true celluloids or celluloid nitrate because of the kind of depth of color that it will hold, and this material is particularly chatoyant. And so these newer celluloids are attempting to get some of those aesthetic properties, capture some of those aesthetic properties of the older celluloids. Now, I have to say, I am a fan of celluloid, but there are so many gorgeous acrylics being made. Look at the way Jonathan Brooks' work has really revolutionized the kinds of materials people look for in pens right now. So I think it's hard to say celluloid is better or worse. Early in my collecting, I was very keen on ebonite pens. I now don't care so much about ebonite anymore, but the property that ebonite has that celluloid also shares is there's a kind of warmth to it in the hand. So this pen it holds the heat of my hand a little bit differently, better, longer, differently. Boy, that bug is so weird. I don't think it's a walking stick. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. Hold it longer than other kinds of plastics, other kinds of acrylics. And that is really pleasurable. It's the thing I like about ebonite. Now, ebonite, you could actually sort of rub it with your thumb, and you could feel it really heat up, and it would also smell bad. So this celluloid acetate pen that I got from Leonardo this week is, they're calling it their Arco marrone oro. I think marrone means brown, not sure. Anyway, and it's beautiful. Now, it does not have the depth of our Momas Arco, right? Omas Arco. This is on an ASC pen. But it does have some really similar qualities. I can't see it very well in this image, but this kind of the way it's striated on the side, and it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful material. I also find that it stays a little warmer than other than other kind of poured acrylic pens. So it has a really nice feel that I think is similar to vintage celluloid. So whether it is true celluloid or real celluloid or not, that's just a matter of usage, I think, in some ways. It's beautiful, right? And it has properties that I think are really enjoyable, and I'm excited to see that pen makers are taking the time to experiment, or rod makers, the makers of the materials for pens. Sometimes it's the makers themselves commissioning it. Sometimes it's people who just specialize in making this stuff, or are trying to find different kinds of materials that are not going to burn the shop down if they catch fire, or if they get too warm, but still can give us some different looks and different experiences with pens. So that's my little mini chat about celluloid. Let me now turn and talk a little bit more specifically about this pen. So Momento Zero Grande, you've seen it before. I've got 25 or 30 of them. They are now making them with a little bit of an ink window, which I appreciate. The section has a different shape. I didn't bring another MZG out here to show you, but the sections now are a little bit chunkier, and before I finish the video, I'll run in and get another one. I'll insert a picture at the end where you can compare the sections. But it's a little chunkier. It's not quite as shapely as the earlier MZGs, but functionally I think it's a better a better section. Beautiful pen, really beautiful pen. This has ruthenium trim, which ruthenium, you know, I'm not one of those, I'm into stealth stuff people, but on this, it looks really handsome. I do have a few pens with ruthenium trim. Sometimes it just is the right thing. But the most interesting thing about this pen, perhaps, is that it sports Leonardo's new in-house nib. And let's see, can we do this? We might have to wait for the still photos for this. But it is a 14 karat nib that Leonardo is making in shop now. It has a different imprint on it. It's one way you can tell that it's the Leonardo. Of course, it's got a ebonite feeder, which they also make in-house from Japanese ebonite. And I will tell you, I didn't like the nib when I first used it. It is much stiffer than I would expect gold to be, a gold nib to be. It feels really like, to me, it feels like a vintage Schaefer nib, which are notoriously stiff. They're gold, but they're notoriously stiff nibs. But as I've been using it, I did floss the channel on the nib a little bit to get it to write a little more wetly. It's still very stiff, but as I'm writing with it, it's kind of breaking in, and I'm finding that I enjoy it. I enjoy it as something a little different from my other Leonardos. I still would choose, it doesn't come in a flex option. This is a fine. I would still choose one of their flexible nibs over this, you know, on the line if I were just getting one pen. But for a little variation, this is growing on me. So no doubt I'll be getting a couple more Leonardos in the future so that I can do some more comparisons. All right, I'm going to turn the camera around and just show you a little bit of writing so you can see, mostly so you can see how stiff the nib is. And then I will add some photos comparing some pens, and we'll call it a day. Thanks for watching. First, let me show you the difference in sections. Now, Leonardo has been doing their grip sections differently for a while, but I don't think I've ever mentioned it in one of my videos. So there you can see side by side the difference in shape. And you know, in the end, I think this is more comfortable, but I really love the look of this older shape. All right, so oh yeah, you can also see that the imprint on the nibs, on the new in-house nibs, are rather more elaborate than the older nibs. Yeah, so let me show you a little bit of the difference in writing. That fine profile. You know what? I'm going to try a different angle and see if you can. So I'm going to try a different angle, and as you watch this different angle, try and watch this part of the pen. Try and watch the tines, and you can perhaps get a better sense from that of the difference in how the nibs perform. Okay, let's look at a little writing. So first is look at the imprint, the newer 14 karat Leonardo. And if I just do regular pressure, see the nib barely moves. If I really push it, I can get some movement, but that's pushing it to a degree with which I'm not comfortable. This is from the Art Deco series. Look at the different section. And this is a pen that's got a fine flex nib. I'll just dip this and look at the very big difference. Oops. Can you see how that's moving? And that's just with my normal pressure. If I want to I can really make it move. And this is the fun angle where you can really see the tines separating, coming back together. But then I also thought, well, that's a flexible nib. That's not really a fair comparison. This is from the second series of the Art Deco, and this is a fine non-flex nib. So fine 14 karat. And you can still see there's just a little bit more movement than there is with the newer nibs. Now, it's not a huge difference at this point. This is a pen. This art, apparently I can't write and talk at the same time. So this Art Deco is not one that I've written with very much. I'm not sure it's ever actually been fully inked, because you know I got the whole set, so I have a lot of choices. So, and this is a pen that I've been working with. So my theory right now is that these newer nibs will develop more expression over time, because that's even after just a few days where this has been my primary writer, I'm seeing some differences. So I still think it is a stiffer nib than earlier nibs, even the non-flexible ones like this, but it can still kind of be worked in to give some pleasure. So I would say if you get one of these, give it a little bit of time. Okay. Yeah, I realized I wanted to say a couple more things. First of all, I didn't talk about, when I was talking about celluloid, I didn't really talk about the heyday of fountain pens. Those were also made of a type of celluloid, I believe was celluloid nitrate, like, you know, we're talking like 20s, 30s, 40s. I have never had those smell like camphor, but I suspect that camphor smell evaporates, and the reason I've never smelled it is because it wears off. Just like this was very strong of camphor when I first got it, and now I can't really smell it fairly, maybe a touch of it. So I think that's the smell test only works if the pen has been turned fairly recently. So I'm going to say that. I also want to say a couple more things about this pen, because I kind of glided over this Momento Zero Grande, talked about the nib, talked about the section, but what I really think is it's I believe these special editions from Leonardo are hand turned. I believe, can't guarantee it, but this is perfect. It's really perfect. It aligns beautifully. Now, to get the pattern to align, I can't line up the clip and turn it. I figured out I have to do a quarter turn, put the nib on, the cap on, and then turn it, and then it lines up. But the pattern alignment is just perfect. It's just perfect. And it's perfect from the cap to the barrel. It's perfect from the barrel to the section. It's really, really a beautifully made pen. I could not be happier with the clear, careful craftspersonship that went into making this pen. The fit and finish is just wonderful. Look at that. I love that, the way that finial looks. It's not really, it's the end of the pen. There's not a separate piece there that's a finial, but you know, where you see the patterns coming together, it's really, really quite marvelous, and I'm glad I got this.